All right, guys, this is Christian Farmer at Starbuck Trade Group, and this is your end of day video for Tuesday, January 4th. Well, pretty interesting day on our hands. Another day of sector rotation, another day of just interesting moves. Growth, I would say kind of theme of the day was, a continuation from what we saw yesterday, right, with bond yields. However, they did kind of rally off the lows. It's kind of interesting. Right, you could see that we put in. I don't know if I would say a hammer bar on the bonds here, but we did take out this version point of control, and we did come back. We also, I think, took out one on the 1 hour time frame too. So I'm not sure that that the move in yields is over with that one being taken out, and there's another one that still lives there. But you could see that we did have this this move off the lows, and I think that gave a little bit of a relief bounce to some of the growth names that have been really under pressure. I mean, you look across growth, and there was a lot of things that were down between 7 to 12%. And that's after yesterday too. So let me talk about, I'll do this a little bit differently because in the midday member video, we talked about some of the names that were getting hit. Let me talk about the positives first. And I have to say, I kind of like what's going on in some of the value areas. It's a little bit different than what we saw the last couple of weeks, where it was a lot of defensive areas, right? Your consumer staples, your utilities, your REITs. Those areas are still did fine today, but what seemed to participate today is a little bit more of the not as boring as those names, but you had like your industrials kind of pick up a little bit, right? So industrials for the day were up 2% for the day. Nice outperformance. Steel names were in there too. I like to see a little bit stronger groups than just the super defensive areas of the market, which, by the way, again, I'm not discounting those at all, but you could see, for example, like a Philip Morris was strong today. Altria was strong today. Hershey's was strong again today, up. So these things have been, that's the story the last week or so. Sorry, not last week, but the last few weeks, right? Procter & Gamble, basically all of December made this huge move. But what I'm referring to is names like Deere, right? Deere made a nice move, and this is kind of exciting, right? I talked about in yesterday's video, how great I thought that the move was Taiwan Semiconductor, and we got some follow through there. At one point, it looked like Taiwan Semiconductor was going to give back a lot of the gains, but came back pretty strong. But similar to this, right? This big long base that we're seeing here. Well, if you look at what we're seeing in a name like Deere, right? This is another one that's been going sideways for a while. So and nice volume today on this move. So I would love to see something like that, right? And then another one is Caterpillar too, right? This to me is really exciting in Caterpillar. I mean, another one that had a real nice move back in here, right? Big move from let's say 110 to 230, just like we talked about in Taiwan Semiconductor, a name that really hasn't done much. So yes, I know that there's a lot of attention on what's going on in growth and so on and so forth, but what I like about a couple of these names, like a Caterpillar, is that the options are not like, if you're playing some of these names, options or stock, the options are not, they're not nearly as expensive as one of the high multiple software names. So I think this is pretty cool. Like even Boeing, participated today. I still don't like this chart, and Boeing, right? To each is their own, right? But that's the story there, is that it's still in a downtrend, and it will take a little while. I think it can continue to bounce, but I think it's very difficult. The name that I traded today was that I also thought was interesting was URI. I've been watching this name, United Rentals, which was up about 5%. And I just thought it was good for a trade for the day, because I just have wondered as well with this name, like, why is it not participating? So I had an alert set. I've looked at it a few times. I've also seen, if you look at like a Tractor Supply, which has been acting better, just didn't think that there was anything wrong with that. With United Rentals. So I had an alert and followed it, and just kind of figured it would kind of be that kind of day. All right, so let's so besides bond yields up again, but off the lows, or off the highs, I guess, when you, again, inverse relationship between bonds and yields. The financials were strong again today. They were up, so nice continuation, right? I even bought some Fifth Third, because I've been underweight this group. Goldman also had a nice day today, nice follow through day. Another name that really hasn't done much, right? So just kind of getting towards the upper end of the range. FITB was the name, and I put this out on Twitter last night too. But I like these moves, like these pops out of consolidation. So this was a good one for me too. I also liked PNC, which I didn't play this one, up 3.7%. And I think just overall you were able to kind of capitalize on these things if you kind of took your medicine, and maybe if you were long a couple of these software names, just stopped yourself out. I had one that I was hanging on till today, and I took off. I tried to see if it would come back, right? But I took this name off, and shame on me, it was through my stop, right? So this I shouldn't have let that go on for as long as it did. And I did take this one off about an hour into the day. Ford, I know this one's, sometimes I don't talk too much about the ones that I know is going to get so much attention, but I have been long Ford for a while. So this was nice for me. I've just been sitting with it over the last few weeks. You haven't heard me say much because there really hasn't been much to talk about, right? It's been consolidating and consolidating. So, this was a huge move for Ford. I took several targets in my Ford trade. And I think that's in here. 20, that may have been, did I take one more after that? You can see I did an awful lot of trading. Look at the difference between my trading yesterday and my trading today, right? Just, I tend to do that when I think that there's some good opportunities. I also did some substitution. Oracle did move a little bit. I would like to see it move a little bit further, right? So was able to take, I think, one target that was at the top of value. But I think, right now, kind of, because I'm going to cut this video short because we have a member video. We have a member video at 5 o'clock. And for those of you who have not signed up, right, to be a member, you can still do that, and you could still do that at the current rate. We will be changing that come Monday. So you will get grandfathered in with the current rate, as well as current members, and but that will change on Monday. All right, a couple other things. I'm just going to keep going here with a few different names. We talked about these names. PayPal, I also took a stop in. It did come back a little bit from the lows, just to see where this thing led. But I don't really know what the story is here, and why it's not coming back, after a lot of selling in this one. But I can tell you that it's still showing relative weakness. And even though PayPal has been beaten up that much, still things like MasterCard and Visa are outperforming, even though they definitely didn't close on their highs. And maybe that's in the end of a couple day run in these names, but still, right? You would think that PayPal, people would be buying the dip, at this point, and it's still an underperformer. So again, it just kind of makes me, more faith in my system seeing something like that, right? Because I am a trend trader, and I trade uptrends, not downtrends, right? And basically stick to, I will try, like I did in PayPal, every once in a while. It's maybe about 5% of my trading in counter trend trades. MP was a nice name. That's a name that we got long last week. One thing I noticed with this one is that it held up very well after it was a secondary was announced toward the end of last year, right? Last week. And that held up pretty well. I scalped some NVIDIA. I just thought it was a good buying opportunity. And Baba hit on the headline about Munger. I have no idea if that's true or not, but announced that he's buying more. And then I just kind of noticed too, I said we'll get to a couple of these things that rallied off the lows. And Asana, nice to see this bounce a little bit, right, from the lows of 66. So this gave you some things to do. If you wanted to stay in this camp, if you were patient, you got a nice little signal here right around like $66 off of this one. Also Cloudflare, I have no idea if the bottom is in these things, but you could day trade them a little bit. right? I think this is an ugly breakdown. We'll find out, if this is a false breakdown or not. I would look for a move back above 127 for confirmation, right? Palo Alto is another one that I noticed too, which has been a little bit stronger out of the group. Came off the lows nicely, right? And there you go. I did take a shot on something. I haven't, I just figured with some of these names coming off the lows, some of these names are pretty beaten up. Every once in a while, I instead of just going with the normal, finding the moves out of consolidation and the normal trades that I do, I did buy on the dip after, about a 10% move the last couple days, maybe a little bit more in this INMD. I did take a shot at some calls that were not super expensive. The most I could lose with this, which is the way I look at option trades, is 487 for February 65 calls. I did notice a couple other areas of strength within this group. STE, which did not close on the highs. That's a name I also tried a small trade in. But I like the relative strength in this one. Also, Edward Life Sciences. We saw a little bit of call action in this one. I have to check to see if they actually added to their position or cut it. But a little bit of relative strength considering the IHI ETF was down about 1.4%. Medical devices. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. The last thing I'll say in this video is that I think if you're nimble, right, we're going to talk more in the member webinar about position size and about how that really helps with some of these moves that are going on that are just, huge moves. And, I think if you're positioned correctly, you can withstand some of these bumps. But I'll tell you, all it takes is to have a couple of these names on that are getting, that are seeing corrections in, and it could really kind of upset your day a bit. So position size is really key, and also just waiting for some confirmation and being able to kind of be flexible with day trading a little bit too, rather than holding at night, because some of these moves, there's gap downs and then they continue to go down. So it's a different market than what we've seen, over the last, couple of years to see this take place. But overall, I think there's a lot of trading opportunities, and look forward to tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. And again, sign up to be a member of Tribeca Trade Group right on our website. Thanks.